All right, we are live. Hello, everybody. Hope you can hear me. If you can't hear me, let me know in the chat. But I think you should be able to. So this is how Vanessa. You can let me know. Can you hear me? So this is how, or I could just put it in the chat actually. Can y'all hear me? So this is how committed I am to this new daily format of doing a live stream every day. Someone asked me yesterday when I announced that I was going to do a Baldoni. Great, thank you. When I announced that I was going to do a Baldoni Lively live stream every day, and people know that I generally do not like streaming, which I don't. I do it for the fans. I prefer pre-recorded stuff, but I know people like the streaming and they like to be able to chat and so forth. But I really don't like streaming. But I thought this is a good opportunity with the interest in Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni to just go ahead and give it a shot. And so this is how committed I am to this chat, to this daily stream, that I'm willing to go on here looking like this. So this is day 3 after my dot laser procedure. And if you don't know me or you don't know my history, I'm obsessed with skincare, and I am lucky enough to get these free procedures because of a family member. So anyway, I try to take advantage of it. But this is day 3 after my laser procedure. And yes, you are supposed to look like this. Actually, I look much better on camera than I do in person. That's what's kind of funny, actually. In person, the skin is a lot darker, and it looks like I've got, you can kind of see it. I've got like tree bark, that my neck has turned into like a tree with bark on it. But it does look a lot worse in person, I will say that. But it doesn't hurt. It just feels kind of weird. Feels like the skin's a little bit tight. But anyway, fuck it. I'm going on. Not allowed to wear makeup after this procedure. So barefaced and looking like tree bark. It is not even allowed really to get like soap on my face. So I didn't even wash my hair. So this is about as bad as I could look, unless I get Ebola or something. In which case, if I get Ebola, I will continue to stream on the Blake Lively Justin Baldoni situation. Anyway, so hello everybody. Some of this is going to be a retread because some of this has been already reported or gone over elsewhere. I wanted to go over the new lawsuit against Blake Lively, the one that this mysterious Hollywood fixer Ray Donovan type, Jed Wallace, has filed. He's actually based in Dripping Springs, Texas. You know, I'm in Texas. I should just get in my car and go find him and do an impromptu ambush. Now, anybody who's on Team Baldoni is great with me. So I'm glad that Baldoni had some kind of a fixer on the case, although apparently no fixing was actually needed. And this is the crux of the Baldoni team argument. No fixing was actually needed because guess what? People already organically hated Blake Lively and smelled a rat with what she'd been up to on the movie It Ends With Us. And so no fixing by Ray Donovan was apparently even required or needed. But this Ray Donovan type, Jed Wallace, he filed a lawsuit the other day. Some people have already reported on it. I know Popcorn Planet, Andy already went over it, but it is interesting, this guy and his seeming background. There was an article that came out yesterday in Business Insider, and it was paywalled, but I got around the paywall, so I'll show it to you here in a minute. And of course, with these types of articles, it's really hard to know how much is legit and how much isn't, and how much of it's just kind of a hit piece trying to make someone look shady. But I thought it was a pretty restrained article, and it didn't make extreme claims. It just took the information that's available to us about this Jed Wallace PR fixer Ray Donovan guy and brought it out. So I want to look at that. It's interesting. He was part of a lawsuit by Bam Margera, that walking human disaster. Apparently, in the past, Bam was going to do another one of these Jackass movies, and because he has had an extensive history of addiction, no knock on him there, but addiction and all kinds of public issues, the movie studio basically wrote up a contract saying to Bam that, you know, you're going to have to be under basically this guy, Jed Wallace's supervision. He's going to run basically your addiction recovery or your sobriety program, and you're going to check in with him. And these are the only terms by which you'll be able to be in this movie, because they don't want some crazy, overdose or something going on, or problems on the set. So Bam Margera ended up suing the studio, and as a part of this lawsuit, Jed Wallace was named, but the actual allegations against him seem extremely mild, and to me, this just comes across basically as a money grab by Bam Margera, but I'll talk about that more in a minute. But we're going to look at this Business Insider article about this Jed Wallace guy, and we're going to talk about his lawsuit. Thank you to the person who sent it to me. In fact, I'm going to call this up right now. Yeah, so Leanne Newton online, I'm not doxing her or anything, and she was one of the people who came up with the metadata information a while back that people were talking about. But thank you for sending this to me, and people should follow you on Twitter. Anyways, we've got the lawsuit here. We're going to talk about this, going to talk about the Business Insider article. But first, I want to talk about the TMZ article about Taylor Swift. By the way, hello to the chat. Thank you to my mod, Vanessa, and to all my mods. I've got Vanessa, Laura B, AJ, and Rebel Bird, but looks like it's just Vanessa today. Thank you so much, girl, for being here. Hello, Heather Way, aka Cat Lady, April Betts, Meat Popsicle. Oh, that sounds kind of sleazy. Andrea Myers. Do I just have a dirty mind? Andrea Myers, April. Yeah, I got y'all. Purple, hello. Okay, what's up, everybody? And yes, as always, if you want to donate, you can do a super chat, or you can find me on PayPal. Oh, that's my Twitter, but whatever. You can also find my PayPal link below. PayPal link. Here we go. Okay. So let me get this article up, and we will talk about this. Just a second. I noticed that something that I did notice today is that Ryan Reynolds' gin company, Aviation American Gin, it has gone private on Twitter. And so it's basically shut down. Someone corrected me and they said, well, it's not shut down. It's just privacy protected. Okay, but the whole point, y'all, of advertising your gin on Twitter is to get as many people following and interacting and seeing your post as possible. So if you have a page for your business set up on Twitter and then you have to make it privacy protected, that defeats the entire purpose of it. So it's basically as if, yes, it is shut down. So what's happened is this gin company that Ryan Reynolds, what is he the front for it? Or did he actually found it? Or he founded it and he sold it? Or I don't really give a fuck. But whatever, he's still on the Twitter page holding the gin. He's the face of this gin company. And they've had to go private, which is something really bizarre for a gin company or any business entity to do if they're trying to advertise their products. So clearly, they are getting a lot of blowback. This gin company is getting a lot of blowback from Ryan Reynolds haters. I didn't realize that Ryan Reynolds, until this whole thing started, a few weeks ago, I didn't realize that Ryan Reynolds was such a business mogul. I mean, he's kind of like Ashton Kutcher in that, yeah, they made some money acting, but then they took that and they parlayed that into all kinds of mega business ventures and mega investments. I mean, Ashton Kutcher has made far more money investing in things like Uber and various tech companies than he has from his films. Same thing with Lance Armstrong. The only reason Lance Armstrong is not totally broke now, he said, is because he made a tiny investment. I think it was like a $50,000 investment in Uber way back in the day. And that ballooned into millions of dollars in payoff. So, lucky for him, fortunate for him, because otherwise he would have been completely bankrupted by the whole doping scandal. But anyway, that's a bridge too far for us today. All right, here we go. So let me bring this article up. I know you probably just want to see my beautiful face some more. Don't hate me because I'm beautiful, everyone. Please try to resist your petty inclinations. All right, here we go. Taylor Swift. Can y'all see this, by the way? Let me just make sure. Yeah, here we go. Okay. Taylor Swift, bad blood with Blake Lively. I'm not your dragon. See, you can go to many different places for your news sources on this, right? You can get Blake Lively news anywhere, but can you get it with the bitchy voice tone that I'm able to provide, where I'm actually acting out Taylor Swift's part in this. Taylor Swift, bad blood with Blake Lively. I'm not your dragon. And then we have these unflattering pictures of them seemingly in some kind of standoff, right? Okay. Taylor Swift feels that she was used by Blake Lively in her war with Justin Baldoni, and she resents Blake calling her one of her dragons and leveraging her name. Of course, this looks like another story that Taylor Swift is feeding to the press, but that's fine. This is her perspective. As we reported, there was a critical meeting at Blake and Ryan Reynolds' NYC penthouse with Justin to discuss a scene that Blake had rewritten for It Ends With Us. Justin has said the meeting got super heated, and he felt ambushed because Ryan and Taylor showed up. By the way, y'all, I said this on Twitter. I'm not trying to be homophobic or anything like that, but I just do not know any straight adult women, like well into adulthood, we're talking here, who walk around holding hands like this. It's just, no, it doesn't ick me out. It doesn't bother me. It's just a blatant performative attention grab. That's all it is. That's all it is. So I find it irritating. All right, whatever. Anyways, I haven't held hands with a woman since 1989, I believe. All right. Anyways, okay. But a well-connected source close to Taylor tells TMZ Taylor came to Blake's apartment at the time Blake told her to, not knowing anyone else will be there. So this is just basically a retread of what Taylor's team leaked to the Daily Mail, last week or whatever, claiming that she didn't know about anything. Blah, blah, blah. The source goes on to say Justin was about to leave after the 2-hour meeting. As Taylor walked in, she was introduced to him for the first and only time. We're told all Taylor said to Justin was how excited she was to see the movie because he was her friend's boss. Yeah, so this is basically just Taylor's side trying to clean up her image and leaking to TMZ. But I tend to agree with those who say that Taylor had a much more extensive role in all of this. And of course, allegations that she got the composer of the film fired because she had some old grudge with him, and that she threatened Sony with not being able to use her song in their film unless they acceded to Blake and Ryan's wishes for the film and pressed Baldoni. And of course, there's even text that Baldoni's side has released in their lawsuits where Sony is explicitly leaning on him and saying, y'all need to work with us on this, play ball, as they said it. Really obnoxious. Okay, let's see if there's anything new in this. TMZ dropped a new podcast Wednesday, Two Angry Men, in which Harvey asked Justin's lawyer, Brian Friedman, about subpoenaing Taylor for a deposition. It's easy to read between the lines, but one thing is clear. Taylor feels used. This is a huge falling out. Taylor is godmother to one of Blake and Ryan's kids. Well, yeah, but these celebrity types, they always look out for number one when it comes down to it. These relationships are almost all fake. And I don't mean fake like they're explicitly set up by studios, like back in the old days when you'd have fake romances between stars. Sometimes one of them would be gay even. But fake in the sense that these people are only friends when it's convenient and when they can walk around proudly, holding hands and getting attention for holding hands with their bestie and all that. But it's not convenient anymore. And so rather the opposite. So that's where we are right now. Then it says, but one source close to Blake has a different take, telling TMZ Blake believes the relationship is not strained, with the two still talking regularly. Well, of course, that's what she'll say, but it's pretty clear Blake has gotten markled. That's what I think. All right. So that's about it. That's about it with that, right? But I did watch the Baldoni interview, or the TMZ Harvey Levin 12 Angry Men interview with Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Friedman. And it was interesting because Harvey explicitly asked Brian Friedman, let's say that Blake Lively decides to call this all a misunderstanding and that her team, they're able to meet you at least at that point and call this whole thing off. And Blake will say, look, this is a huge, giant misunderstanding. I'm calling my dogs off, so to speak. Call yours off. Split the difference. Let's go home. Let's stop this. Harvey Levin asked Brian Friedman, Baldoni's attorney, would you accept that? And Baldoni's attorney said, well, this is after Baldoni has been called a sexual predator, has been labeled a sexual predator in public. Really? as if to say basically, no, we're not just going to accept some split the difference thing. Well, it was a misunderstanding. Things have gone way too far for that. What Friedman is saying here, what he's implying, is that Blake Lively is going to have to publicly accept culpability here, because now she is labeled Baldoni for the rest of his life with this sexual predator status, and she's going to have to do more than just say, oh, misunderstanding. Oopsie, as Candace Owens likes to say, oopsie, right? By the way, my mom is moving. Why I have these boxes in the back. You might wonder where my normal setup is, but I'm actually helping my mom move. She had fire damage in her house and smoke damage. And so they moved her out, the insurance company, they fixed the house. And so she's been living in this hotel for a while. So that's where we are. Got this lovely, lovely room here. It is pretty. I like hotels. I would love to be one of those rich people who just lives in hotels. You know, you just get to walk outside, say hi to people, go back to your room, have a regular maid. I mean, I think that's the life. If I were really wealthy, I wouldn't even have a house. I would just live in hotels. Anyways. So yeah, so Brian Friedman basically signaling to Blake Lively's team that things they've gone way too far now for us to just let you get by with a, oops, it was a misunderstanding. So no, not going to play ball with that. And good for them, because they have the entirety of public sentiment on their side. And the mainstream media, they can keep carrying water for Blake Lively, but that song and dance has gotten really old and really tired. And I'm not even sure how long the mainstream media is going to be able to keep that one up. Not with the entirety of public sentiment turned against Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, and with all of this attention on this story. I mean, those people who are covering it, whether we're talking about the smaller content creators or we're talking about the bigger ones like Candace Owens, Megyn Kelly, those people are getting extraordinarily good ratings or a lot of algorithm hits. And no, it's not like Depp versus Heard days, but it's definitely at this point, it has stoked a lot of public interest. And of course, we're still in the early days too. This was like basically where we're at right now is like the beginning of Depp versus Heard, of that saga. So we've got a long time, a lot of rope to play out here, a lot of rope that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds can hang themselves with, as it looks. But anyway, that's the situation. So let's talk about this. Sorry, I just got a text. Let's talk about this this situation, this lawsuit by Jed Wallace. And I'm just downloading it here. Here we go. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is this article in Business Insider about Jed Wallace. And give me 1 minute to go away and come right back. Okay. So this was the Business Insider article, and it was paywalled, but let me give everybody a free tip. If you weren't aware, you can get most paywalls removed by going to remove paywall. That's right, removepaywall.com. And it usually works with almost everything. I've almost never had something that it won't remove the paywall for. So there you go. You're welcome. Anyway, let's look at this. So again, this is the article. This is an article about the crisis PR, looks like sort of Ray Donovan type, if you're familiar with that, celebrity fixer, Jed Wallace. And this guy was first implicated by Blake Lively in her civil rights complaint, although, as Wallace notes, not implicated in Blake Lively's actual lawsuit. She seems to have kind of scurried away from that, but implicated in the civil rights complaint. And basically, he's claiming he was defamed by Blake Lively when she accused him of being part of this retaliation PR effort by Baldoni's publicist. And of course, Jed was mentioned in a few of the texts between these publicists. But again, it seems like Blake Lively has really blown his role in this way out of proportion. Looking at these various texts and these various lawsuits between these publicists, it appears that he was hired by he was hired by Justin Baldoni's PR peeps to do some kind of work online, but that it really didn't have an effect, and that what they're saying and what they're saying in some of these texts that we have access to is that basically the dislike for Blake Lively and the bad coverage was more or less completely organic, that they in fact didn't need to get this guy to really dig in and try to pull all of these strings online or generate some kind of false fan base for Justin Baldoni or false hatred for Blake Lively, because in fact, guess what? There were tons of people who already disliked her and were already doing all of that work. And so again, this is similar to the Amber Heard situation, where Amber Heard supporters have tried to claim that all of the most of the anti-Amber Heard posts and likes and engagement for those types of posts were just artificially bot created, right? And of course, even blaming Mohammed bin Salman for getting involved. But that's just not my experience. I'll tell you, my experience with crisis PR and observing a lot of these situations and knowing people involved in these types of things is that they are much less powerful than people think they are. And sometimes actually surprisingly impotent, these crisis PR people. They talk a good game and they charge a hell of a lot of money, but I don't see where they actually have the power or the effect that people think they do. And so Blake Lively thought that she could throw into her complaint, her civil rights complaint, this mysterious Ray Donovan-esque figure, Jed Wallace, and throw in a few texts between Baldoni's publicists where they're mentioning employing him. And then she'd be able to, from that, Blake Lively, her side would be able to create this idea that like there was this whole master PR manipulation scheme going on, when in fact there really wasn't. And if you read Baldoni's lawsuit and a lot of the text between the publicists, it becomes obvious then in context that they themselves really didn't do much of anything. No offense to them, but they really didn't, because everybody online was doing it for them. But anyway, let's look at this article here. I'm gonna read through this about Jed Wallace. Meet Jed Wallace, the mysterious crisis guru who's suing Blake Lively, specializes in seemingly insurmountable situations. Well, you know what? Maybe Blake Lively should now hire Jed Wallace, because Blake Lively herself, seems to have gotten herself into an insurmountable situation. So maybe Blake Lively, she can settle this lawsuit with Jed Wallace, and then she can hire him to get her out of this shit. Oh, man. All right. So here we go. A little-known Texas crisis consultant, Jed Wallace, on Tuesday sued Blake Lively for defamation, saying that she had caused him, quote, millions of dollars in reputational and emotional harm. For nearly 8 weeks, Lively and Justin Baldoni, who directed and starred alongside her in the movie It Ends With Us, have been at war. In a lawsuit filed in late December, Lively accused Baldoni and his team of running a coordinated smear campaign against her and tapping Wallace to assist by weaponizing, quote, a digital army. Baldoni, his publicist, and Wallace have denied these allegations. In January, Baldoni sued Lively for defamation and extortion, which Lively's legal team told Business Insider was a desperate strategy. Okay, here we go on what they say about Wallace. Wallace owns a PR firm called Street Relations and has cultivated a certain mystique among his peers. On his LinkedIn page, which is no longer available, the crisis guru described himself as, quote, a hired gun with a, quote, proprietary formula for defining artists and trends, unquote. One entertainment industry executive familiar with Wallace's services told Business Insider that Wallace is, quote, the guy you hire if your kid is stuck in Bolivia or something, unquote. Well, no one is stuck in Bolivia here, but I think Blake Lively is stuck in a worse place than Bolivia. She is in the Amber Heard zone. Can Jed Wallace Ray Donovan-esque PR crisis guru. Can he rescue Blake Lively from the Amber Heard zone? That's what I want to know. But anyway. All right, Wallace 54 has represented the YouTuber Aiden Ross Paramount Pictures and Hamilton Souther, a self-described shaman and ayahuasca ceremony guide who offers life coaching services for CEOs and celebrities. Okay, here's the Bam Margera lawsuit. In a 2021 lawsuit filed by Bam Margera, the star of MTV's Jackass, against Paramount Pictures, Margera said that Wallace, who had no medical training or credentials, oversaw a quote, inhumane substance abuse treatment program that included requiring Margera to take medication during daily FaceTime calls with Wallace. Wallace denied those allegations, and the suit was settled in 2022. Wait a minute, Bam! Come on now, is that the best you can come up with? You tell me that you were subjected to inhumane treatment? Like, that's got like torture in my mind. Like, these people are like stringing you up, you know, by wires or whatever, and they're like electroshocking you. But then you tell me that the worst thing that happened to you as a part of this inhumane substance abuse treatment program was that you had to take medication and do daily FaceTime calls with Wallace. FaceTime calls! Oh my God, that is inhumane. All right, money grab. Bam Margera, money grab. That's what this is. Swear to God. So many of these lawsuits in Hollywood and in the entertainment industry are just blatant money grabs. It's like, I'm going to throw out, and really not just Hollywood, a lot of lawsuits in general, blatant money grabs. I'm going to throw out these allegations, but put them out here. They're going to sound really bad. You're going to get bad PR, and then you're going to settle with me, and I'm going to pocket some quick payoff. Oh my God, I had to do FaceTime calls and take medication. Well, you agreed to it, dude. That was the agreement that you made, Bam, when you said you were going to do the Jackass movie. All right? And why? Because you have a long-standing history of going off the fucking rails. So don't come and cry to me, Bam Margera, about the fact that you had to do FaceTime calls with this Ray Donovan guy and take some anti-addiction medication. I have like no sympathy. None. Dan Campbell says, I was treated inhumanely from which I'll never recover, but I'll take the cash. Exactly. Cash always makes everything better. Okay. All right. And by the way, it just occurred to me, I didn't mean to keep ignoring Laura B yesterday. Thank you so much to Laura B, not my mod, but the real Laura B from Johnny Depp days. Thank you for contributing ideas and thoughts to the stream. I just didn't see you in the chat because I was juggling other things. Okay, back to this Jed Wallace article. In December, the New York Times published an explosive story. Okay, blah, blah, blah. It's talking about Lively's claims, all right? And then it talks about Baldoni, and he fired back, and his publicist and Wallace filed a libel lawsuit against the Times, denying the allegations and accusing the paper of cherry-picking and altering private messages to deliberately mislead readers, which they did. Chip Babcock, a partner in the Texas law firm Jackson Walker, who represents Wallace, told Business Insider that, quote, Mr. Wallace has never participated in a smear campaign against Blake Lively, and to suggest otherwise would be false and defamatory. The Times has said they plan to vigorously defend against the lawsuit. Okay. In his lawsuit against Lively, Wallace, this is the Ray Donovan guy, said the actor sowed confusion in the press by naming him as a defendant in her civil rights complaint, but not in her lawsuit. His filing comes after Lively filed a petition in Texas state court on January 21st requesting Wallace be deposed about the nature of his work with Baldoni. That petition was withdrawn the same day Wallace filed his suit. Oh, did you get that? So Blake Lively initially, she named Wallace in the civil rights complaint. And then she filed a petition in Texas court January 21st requesting him to be deposed about the nature of his work with Baldoni. But this is interesting. She withdrew that petition the same day Wallace filed his lawsuit. What does that tell you? It tells you that Lively's claims were bullshit. And that's why as soon as Wallace filed his lawsuit, she scurried away. Oh, never mind. Psych, as my generation would have said. Just joking. We need to bring back psych, by the way, y'all. I understand there's certain terms that are becoming more acceptable now again to use the word retard as a joke. But I really miss the psych days. So can we bring back psych? Oh, you look really hot today. Psych. I want to bring psych back. I'm just going to start saying psych constantly. All right. Brian Friedman, a Hollywood attorney representing Baldoni's team and Wallace in their lawsuit against the Times, called Wallace a do-gooder. Oh, well, Brian, that might be a little bit of a bridge too far. Come on now. I think this Ray Donovan guy is probably working on other motivations besides doing good in the world. All right, whatever. Jed Wallace helps with with real life human crisis, trauma, mental health concerns, addiction issues, and personal safety issues. Okay, I get it. He's Ray Donovan. Okay. Wallace's firm has no website. Oh, here's a picture of him. Wallace's firm has no website. His name appears in archives of the student newspaper at Fordham University, where he played football in the late 1980s and early 1990s and still holds the record for fifth longest punt. Did we really have to know that? I could not give a shit about the punting, but whatever. Wallace moved to Los Angeles in the mid 1990s, attending acting classes at the Beverly Hills Playhouse and working at a restaurant on Montana Avenue. A person who knew him at the time said. Eventually, he landed in public relations. Between 2004 and 2006, multiple press releases indicate that he worked for MPHPR, owned by Mike Hiles, whose clients included the advertising agency RMD Entertainment Group and Virtus Systems, which creates training simulators for law enforcement in the military. It's almost like they're kind of trying to tie him in with the military there, but that doesn't really go anywhere. His father, Roger, was a communications professor at the University of Scranton and taught classes in radio production. Then it says Wallace started Street Relations, his company, in Los Angeles in 2007. Over the years, he amassed a diverse client list, including Travis Allen, a California State Assembly candidate, and Dr. David Alessi, a Beverly Hills plastic surgeon. Wallace has also represented a number of substance abuse recovery groups, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He's worked with Heather Hayes and Associates, a Georgia-based concierge service for addiction recovery. Okay, so what I'm getting here is that this is a kind of a Hollywood fixer, Ray Donovan type, but that it seems like his focus is more on the addiction stuff, probably because there are so many celebrity addicts, and it's hard to treat addiction. Doesn't matter who you are. So if there's some guy that has a track record of cracking the code when it comes to some of these more treatment resistant cases, like Bam Margera, then they call in the big guns and he subjects his clients to FaceTime calls, which just completely turns them around, dude. There's no smack withdrawal that's as bad, apparently, as a FaceTime call with Jed Wallace. That gets him in line. All right, just like that. All right, I'm joking. So they're repeating the Bam Margera thing here. Blah, 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 blah. There's a picture of Bam looking a little rough there. Margera alleged the treatment program was, quote, psychological torture. Damn, those are some intense FaceTime calls. Comparing it to Britney Spears' conservatorship. He said he was required to have daily FaceTime calls with Wallace, during which Margera had to take, quote, a cocktail of pills that left him physically and mentally drained, depressed, and a shell of his former self. Yeah, but why were you taking the cocktail of pills? It's because you had been taking a cocktail of other shit that was also leaving you physically and mentally drained, depressed, and a shell of your former self. I'm sorry. I don't think addiction is funny until it is. All right. So I'm not even going to read Margera's complaints here because they're just stupid. But anyway, okay. Now, they do talk about how it seems like this Wallace guy lied about graduating from Fordham. Apparently, he did not graduate. He took a bunch of classes. Well, whatever. People lie about all kinds of education shit on their CVs. I don't really care about that. In an affidavit, Wallace said he had more than 17 years of experience working in the substance abuse behavioral health fields and had worked with treatment centers, blah, 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 crisis wellness consultants, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Lively's lawsuit says Wallace was retained by the agency group PR firm, which was founded by Melissa Nathan in 2024 and represents clients including Drake, Johnny Depp, and Hybe America, an entertainment company run by Scooter Braun. Ooh, Scooter Braun. Nathan, whom Baldoni hired as a crisis publicist after negative rumors started swirling around the movie, was working alongside Baldoni's longtime publicist, Jennifer Abel. I'm going to talk about more of this in a video that I've got coming up. I'm still working on it, unpacking all of this publicist stuff. Okay, so basically, what this does then is it lays out some of the allegations by Blake Lively against Wallace and cites some text messages where Nathan texted Abel a message he said was from Wallace where he said, quote, "We are crushing it on Reddit." Some social media accounts accused Baldoni's team of using bots to amplify pro-Baldoni content, but Nathan texted Baldoni that they did not do so because it would have been too obvious. So this is what I'm trying to say here, is that yes, Melissa Abel and Jennifer Abel and Melissa Nathan, they did hire this Wallace guy, it looks like, to do some kind of work for them, maybe doing some stuff on Reddit or trying to plant some text or post or what have you. But then if you look at the totality of their conversations, it becomes clear that he really didn't do much of anything, and they didn't really do much of anything, again, because they did not have to. And this is what I've been trying to say is that having some experience with PR and crisis PR and some of these people in these arenas, they just don't have the power or the effect that people think they do. And like I said, almost basically impotent. They charge a hell of a lot of money. No offense to them, though. I don't see where they really do that much. So in this case, that's a good thing because it looks like they didn't do much of anything for Baldoni, didn't have to. And so Lively's claims are BS. Right? And that's what's going on here. Okay, now back to this article. It says one Los Angeles-based crisis publicist said the Lively Baldoni blowup is not ideal for someone like Jed Wallace. Quote, I imagine Jed has no interest in having his name out there, the publicist said. I imagine all his work is word of mouth, and he doesn't want to be known because if he's the guy who makes things untraceable, that's the value. Yeah, so Jed Wallace, he's clearly been outed here. Again, I don't think for doing anything wrong, but he's clearly been outed. And so I guess the reason that he decided to go ahead and file this lawsuit against Lively is because he saw the writing on the wall. It's like, okay, my name's already out there. I'm already being talked about and accused of these things. So I might as well file a lawsuit, try to get $6 million if I can, and set the record straight in the process. So yes, I would imagine for a Ray Donovan-esque fixer like Jed Wallace, it does suck to have his name now brought up widely in discussions of this case and be accused by Lively of stuff, but it's also an opportunity now for him to sue her back, set the record straight, and get hopefully a cool $6 million. I'm totally behind that. I think that's what they're asking for, $6 million. I'm totally behind that. Get whatever you can, dude. This lady, this evil schemer, and her husband were trying to bring you down along with Baldoni and Baldoni's team and blame you for stuff that you didn't do. Great. Go after him. I think that's fine. Okay, let's look at the lawsuit. I'm just going to skim through it. I know that Andy on Popcorn Planet has already talked about it, and so I'm not going to read the whole thing, but we will skim through it. So this is Jed Wallace. Oops, just a second. Let me make this go away. One second. Okay. Jed Wallace, plaintiff versus Blake Lively, blah, 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 blah. Wallace is a citizen of Texas, resides within the Austin division of the Western District. I should just go over there and check this guy out. I think that's called stalking. Okay, factual background. So he gives the background here of Lively filing this initial complaint with the California Civil Rights Department, being named in it, being blamed for harassment, retaliation, et cetera, abetting harassment. These are the things that she accused him of. All right. It says Lively or her agents provided the precursor to various media entities for out-of-court republication, and because of the allegations contained therein, it made, quote, headlines around the world. Yes, that's right. Wallace and Street were widely reported to be defendants in the formal lawsuit, although they were not, the confusion having been sown by the precursor. Lively later admitted she knew of no facts to support the allegations against Wallace or Street. Indeed, having been the one harassed, she knew the exact opposite. Neither Wallace nor Street had anything to do with alleged sexual harassment, retaliation, failure to investigate, or aiding and abetting alleged harassment or alleged retaliation. Neither could they have breached a contract with Lively because no such contract exists, etc., etc. All right. Then on January 21st, Lively filed her verified petition for Rule 202 deposition. So requesting or demanding a deposition of Wallace in Hays County, Texas, alleging on information and belief. Oh, by the way, I want to call your attention to something, everyone. Here, I'm no lawyer, but here's a little bit of legal insight that I can give you that's going to be very helpful in the future as we see more and more lawsuits of this nature and we dissect them, okay? Do you see this part here? Upon information and belief. So in other words, this was a part of Blake Lively's complaint. and her attempt to get this guy deposed. She said, quote, upon information and belief, Wallace was a, quote, subcontractor to a company called TAG to assist them in their unlawful retaliatory social combat campaign against Lively. Now, I want you to understand whenever you see this, upon information and belief in a lawsuit or a legal document, I want you to know what that means. Okay, this is how you translate it. If you see upon information and belief, translate to this is probably bullshit and I can't prove it. Okay, if you just do that switch in your mind, do that little translation, then you're going to understand exactly what's going on. Because every time in any of these lawsuits or legal filings, you see that phrase, what they're trying to say here is, this is what we believe. We have some information that kind of makes us think this could be true, but we don't really have good information. We can't prove it, and we're not even really sure. And please don't hold us to this or hold us accountable for saying this, because we're telling you right now it's just upon our belief, and it's basically bullshit. That's what that means. So you can discount everything that comes after that if that phrasing is used. It's kind of like in Game of Thrones when one of the characters says, my dad always told me that whenever someone says something to you, you can disregard anything that comes before the word but as basically just unnecessary filler right before they get to the main thing. And that's kind of how I feel about upon information and belief. It's a signal to you that you can completely disregard whatever is coming after. So anyway, Blake Lively tried to pull that. So anyway, the 202 position was a transparent attempt to chill plaintiffs' free speech rights and would have been fodder for a motion to dismiss under the Texas Citizens Participation Act, whose purpose is to encourage and safeguard the rights of persons to speak freely. Okay. So basically, this is almost kind of like an anti-SLAPP claim here. It's basically saying that this is a free speech imposition here, and it's wrong, and for that reason. All right. Then it also says the statements of fact, actual or implied, of and concerning plaintiffs in the precursor and CRD complaint are false, defamatory, made with either negligence or actual malice, and have caused millions of dollars in reputational harm, including both general and special damages to Wallace, and actual damages and projected loss of business in an amount that exceeds $1 million. But I think they ended up asking for $6 million. Okay. I think y'all get the point here. I mean, I've basically repeated everything. I've already told you basically everything that is alleged in here. So yeah, so Jed Wallace, Mr. Ray Donovan, Hollywood celebrity fixer, he too is joining in the war against Blake Lively now legally and suing her for defamation and false claims, et cetera, et cetera. So it's interesting to see. Very interesting to see. Okay, y'all, I'm going to wrap it up. Is there any news so far that I have missed? Anything that you've seen elsewhere or you want to ask me about or you want me to respond to? I'm going to scroll through the comments right now. See if there's anything. Oh, Meat Popsicle. It's a reference to The Fifth Element. Okay, I've seen that movie, but I do not remember that. But it has been a while. Man, Luc Besson, he has gotten pretty extensively Me Too'd in France, right? I mean, he did start dating that girl like when she was 12 or 13. Although Maïwenn, by the way, Maïwenn Lebesco, this is the woman who directed Johnny Depp's French film, the one that went to Cannes. She did start dating Luc Besson, I think, when she was 13, and then she got pregnant when she was like 15. Am I getting it right? Anyway, but these are things that have been up until now more acceptable in France than they are now. But anyway, Fifth Element is a good movie, and their personal life, not my business, especially since Maïwenn has no issue with the relationship. So anyways, she's a fully adult grown woman now. Kind of reminds me of another situation being discussed in France, but I'll get to that in a second. All right. Anything else, everybody? Anything? Yes, do hit like, do hit subscribe. I promise I will look better than this tomorrow. I can start wearing makeup tomorrow and washing my hair. So, but I don't know how long it's going to be before the tree bark goes away. You know what this reminds me of? Speaking of Game of Thrones, the grayscale, dude. I've got grayscale on my fucking neck. Am I just going to have to peel it off? Is that how this is going to end? It's going to end badly. I'm going to end up suing my father-in-law for putting grayscale on my neck. That's how this is going to end. I can see it now. Upon information and belief, physician infected me with a case of grayscale. And I'm demanding now $10 million. Okay. All right. Anything else, anybody? Anything? Anything? Tyrone Wilson says Blake is done. These people are the entertainment. Yes, it's true. It is all entertainment from here on. I don't see what Blake can throw into the mix now that's going to turn this bus around. No way. Golden Beads, hello, says, why isn't Justin Baldoni suing them for the gross text? She doesn't use teeth, ballbuster, etc. He would have it written on his perineum. Wait, did someone say something about a perineum? When did I miss that? And other nasty stuff they said. Wait a minute. Uh-oh. Demanding Heath to face. That's so racist. Okay. I'm not sure, Golden Beads, that I got everything that you said there. But what is this about the perineum? Did Blake Lively make a joke about Justin Baldoni's perineum or her perineum? Or what? I don't understand what's happening. Someone help me. Someone help. Oh, man. Okay, y'all. While I wait some clarification on the perineum thing, I will say this. I wanted to give you an update on, gosh, my face looks so bad. I want to give you an update on where I'm at with the Candace Owens Macron wife, perhaps being a male pederast or whatever thing. Okay. Ooh, did I just zap my monetization here with that? I have now watched every video that Candace Owens has put out on this topic, including the videos that she did like months and months ago when she first started getting into this. I've watched every video. I know there's another one coming out today in just a little while. I've watched every video. You can believe me or not, I've had a very open mind. But I just don't see any evidence yet, y'all. And I wanted my mom's opinion because my mom, believe me, look, my mom is like an East Texas conservative lady. The last thing that she's going to have an issue with is Candace Owens exposing the president of France's wife for being a transvestite, or the two of them for having some like insidious agenda to turn France into some kind of more debauched place than it already is. My mom would be totally down with this. So I'm like, I'm going to show her this and see if she finds it more resonant and an evidence-based than I do. So she watched it. She's now watched both episodes that Candace has put out. Candace put out an initial episode. It was like a teaser episode or an introduction. And then there have been 2 episodes after that, right? So now three of these things my mom has watched. And my mom doesn't know where the evidence is either. It seems to me that what Candace is doing is she's cherry picking some people that are associated with the president of France and his wife that have, yes, done gross, shitty, abusive things, accused of sexual assault, various other stuff. But it seems like she's basically cherry picking associations to then imply that all the things that she's asserting about the president of France and his wife are true. And I just want to say, like, you could cherry pick people in Trump's orbit or that have been in Trump's orbit or associated with him, and you could find all kinds of terrible people and weird stuff. So I just don't buy, especially when we're talking about major figures like the president of France and his wife, who are going to, yes, have a lot of people in their orbits and at times some shady characters. I don't buy that as being proof of the central claims. And so then Candace says, well, we don't have pictures on file of Brigitte Macron up to a certain age. Well, just because you don't have them on file or they've not been given to you is not, again, the absence of evidence is not proof of evidence for your side. And I know France has a different sort of opinion on privacy and things like that. It's a country that values privacy, even for its politicians, more than we do. I just don't know that it means the same thing as it would mean here, that the politician has not flashed all these pictures of their wife from a certain period of time for public consumption. So my issue here is that if you were going to present extraordinary and extraordinarily defamatory claims about a public figure, or in this case, a public figure's wife, you have to have not only some evidence, but really rock solid evidence. And so far, I just don't see it. But I'm going to keep watching. She keeps teasing that eventually, Candace does, that eventually we're going to get to actual evidence. And she claims that by the end of this series, that if you watch this series to the end, you will be absolutely convinced that Brigitte Macron is a man, and perhaps of these other claims that are being made about her. Well, we're just not anywhere near that yet. And I'll tell you something, I was absolutely not impressed by Candace's claims a couple of days ago that because the president of France is a fan of the writer André Gide and even has one of Gide's books in the background of his presidential photo. And by the way, when I say in the background, I don't mean it's like holding it up or it's just like right there in the photo. It's like sort of like buried in the back, all right, on like a back desk or whatever. And Candace claims that that is indicative of something because Gide was a pederast. Well, guess what? Yeah, he was. And yeah, that's not good. And yes, he did hang out with Oscar Wilde and they did visit some adolescent prostitutes. But here's the thing, none of that proves that the president of France's wife is a man or that they have these pedophilic inclinations. It just doesn't, because you have to understand French culture and French literary history, and you have to know that whatever we may think of André Gide's private life, that he is one of the most beloved central literary figures in French literary history and culture. He won a Nobel Prize, y'all. So to me, this would be as absurd as saying that an American politician must be a terrible person because he's got an Oscar Wilde book on his desk. Oscar Wilde, y'all, was a pederast too. Did you know this? One of the central figures of Western literary history. You've probably seen a bunch of movies based on his work. You probably know a bunch of aphorisms that he came up with. He also was a pederast. And in fact, he hung out with Gide and they had sex with adolescent male prostitutes. We don't have to approve of any of that. We can think it's bad. It was a completely different time period. It was even before Freud became mainstream when people didn't even think about these things in the same way, but whatever. But I hope that we're not getting into a situation now where if someone is a fan of Oscar Wilde, then their wife is going to be accused of being a pederast, transvestite, transsexual. I hope that's not where we're going with this. So I'm awaiting more evidence. I don't have a dog in this fight. In fact, there's a part of me that would find it kind of interesting if Candace turned out to be right. But we ain't there yet. We ain't even in the ballpark of there yet. And she is midway through her series now, and I'm just wondering, when is she going to bring the evidence? All right. Did anybody clear up the perineum thing? Oh, man. I don't see it. I don't see it. Leanne, there you are. Yeah. Thank you so much for helping me out with that file. And everybody, she goes by this name on Twitter X. And are you on TikTok too? Anyway, check her out. Check out her work. And I always appreciate, your help. Dan Campbell says, I mean, Amber pretended it wasn't about Johnny. Right. Dan says Blake still has it over Amber and that she filed an official civil rights complaint as opposed to putting her accusations in a tabloid and pretending it wasn't her. Amber was cowardly about it. Well, I agree with you that Dan, I agree with you that Blake definitely expressed her allegations in a more official complaint or through official channels, but I'm not sure that it was a question of bravery, though. I think that Blake Lively and her team are such idiots or were so delusional that they really believed that if they put that CRD complaint out there and they leaked it to the Times as they did, that was going to be the end of it. That Justin Baldoni and his team, because they had been so passive up to that point and compliant, and that they were so scared of Lively Reynolds' machine, that they would just take it and that she would be allowed to own, several media cycles and scapegoat him, and then her work would be done. They would move on. I don't think there's any way in hell that Blake Lively and her team anticipated that they were going to be slapped with a $400 million lawsuit, or that the New York Times was going to be slapped with a $250 million lawsuit, or that this thing was going to blow up in her face the way that it has. And I loved Ian Runkle's comment today. He's a British attorney and weighed in a lot on the Johnny Depp thing. I loved his comment, and he said that Blake Lively took a grenade and she pulled the pin out and then she threw the pin away. And that's right. It's like, this has been such a catastrophe and such a series of screw ups on Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' part, their team's part. It really is like she took this, it really is like a self-own or self-goal. She took this grenade that she was planning to throw on Baldoni. She yanked the pin out, and then the dumbass threw the pin at Baldoni and held onto the grenade, and it has exploded and continues to explode all over her and all over Ryan Reynolds. It is such a self-own. It's such a self-goal. It's exactly like when you watch one of those soccer matches and some poor lad or gal who's a little bit too tired, a little bit out of their minds, they get confused and they shoot a goal into their own goalpost and they lose the game, right? What did that happen? It was like a quarterfinals World Cup game, ladies World Finals, ladies World Cup, like quarterfinals, and one team was winning or it was tied, and then this poor girl ended up kicking the ball into her own net, her own goal, and losing the game. Man, I would just want to shoot myself after that. I don't know how you recover from that. And you could see her teammates. Some of them were trying to comfort her, but a lot of them, like, you could see that they kind of wanted to, but they're also like, man, you just lost our fucking dream for us. And just like, that would be so hard. But anyway, that's what Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have done. And it's pretty incredible to have seen it. So I don't know. Dan Campbell, I don't know about Oscar Wilde, but his wife Olivia is hot. You know, we need to get Olivia Wilde and Blake Lively to direct a film together. Can you imagine what a disaster that would be? Yeah, I know, Dan Campbell. I'm reading them in reverse order. It's hard enough to keep up with this whole stream. I can't do it always exactly the way that y'all would like it done. All right. I don't even like doing this. That's picky, 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 picky. All right. Anyways, and don't send me another chat apologizing for that because I don't want to read it. It's fine. I'm not mad, but it's just like, come on. Anyways, all right. So I gotta go. I appreciate all of y'all. I do appreciate all the super chats. Thank you, Dan Campbell. I guess I never could get an answer to the perineum thing, but somebody tag me on Twitter and let me know what is up with that. But anyway, thank you all so much. We're gonna try to do this again. I'm gonna try to keep it up every day. And thank you to my mods, to Vanessa, and to all of you. And my links are below. And once again, bye-bye.